The year is 1991. You're hanging out in your buddy's basement. They just got Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. As you watch them play the game, your focus lasered in. Suddenly you wonder, how in the world did someone create this game? It's amazing! How can I learn to create games? What's the process like? Now, fast forward to 2015. You finally got your pre-order of Mario Maker on the Wii U. What a time. You know the system itself, it's been a bit of a letdown. Seems like Nintendo's finally created a game worth talking about with the Wii U. But this time it's not just a game, it's a game builder. Suddenly you're snapped back to that moment in 1991 when you wondered how games were made. You think to yourself, wow, this has come full circle. I'm making a Mario game. Well, sort of. You're kind of making some Mario maps within the different Mario games. Alright, enough history talk. It's 2023. Yeah, there's a lot of games, Mario Maker 1 and 2, Garage Game Builder, Dreams, there's Dungeon Makers, even there was a Mega Man Maker of some sort. I don't think official though, correct me if I'm wrong. But there's a lot more to the creation process for gaming than playing a game where you create courses. So in today's video, we're going to detail some of that process for you. Yeah, it'll be a little bit of an elementary education process, but either way, buckle up, grab a Surge if you can, and let's look at the steps toward making a video game. Step 1. Concept or idea. Do you enjoy drawing, designing characters, story writing? Maybe you have some ideas for a spin-off of a different game. Well then, good news. You might just be on your way to having a concept for a game. Concept can come from anyone. Maybe it's an artist, a designer, producer, just your average Joe. A good idea is a good idea. Easy way to get started. Just think of a character, maybe a setting, plot elements. Have an idea, a concept. Step 2. Pitching the concept. Make a prototype. Next, and this one is a bit of a leap from step 1, but it's where you share your concept. This goes beyond sharing your initial character, but most likely leaves out story elements. This is where what's called a game pitch document comes into play. The document shows the basics of the game and its features. Here's where you're probably going to need to get more people involved depending how tech savvy you are. A prototype's going to need to be made. This is going to be for demonstration purposes, and it's going to see if the concept is viable. Is the prototype fun? Is it worth developing further? You might just be ready for step 3 if it is viable. Step 3. Game concept rough draft. Once your concept has the green light, it's time to create your game design document. This will be somewhat of a guide or a rough draft of your characters, concept art, level designs, or anything that shows off your design decisions. This is your time to show off the key features of the game. These features, they should include things like what game modes are available, the controls for the game, who is the target audience, maybe the genre of the game, and development schedule, among other things. This document is what's going to be used to bring your game to life. Well, there's a Julia sighting. Step 4. Computer-generated concept models. Here's where your game really begins to come to life. 2 or 3 dimensional designs of the characters, the levels, the items, and so on, they're generated on a computer. So designers can figure out how the characters are going to move, or act, or interact with their environment. It's a collaborative process most of the time between the artists, the designers, and they use earlier or updated concept art modelers to bring these characters to life. So getting them ready to be animated in the next step. Step 5. Concept animation. Now we're getting into the little details. The artists start focusing on things like character expressions, the speaking, the more intricate movements, and so on. It's a long process and it's extremely detail oriented. Here's where animators use motion capture or animate even smaller frames than motion capture might miss. If applicable, designers will observe real world motion in an attempt to be as accurate as possible. The first example that comes to mind for me is for sports games, when designers actually bring in professional athletes to get their specific movements copied into the game as precisely as possible. So, players such as Kevin Durant might actually have their shot looking perfect to them, not just a generic jump shot form. I'm sure you've seen motion capture suits with all the little ping pong balls all over. They're pretty silly looking, but it's pretty cool how they capture that motion and the animation really comes to life within the game. Step 6. Soundtrack. Here is my personal favorite step, which, if you're a fan of the Cartridge Twins YouTube channel, you probably could have guessed that, considering we mostly just put up a bunch of soundtracks for games on the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, etc. Check them out if you haven't. But this step is way more than just the game's soundtrack. This is where the script is written, sound effects are compiled, such as crowd noise, animal sounds, gunfire, and way more. Voice actors also give the characters their personalized voice, like this little guy.
Well, here I am, conquered the king, king of all the land.
Oh, conquer. Another example, Charles Martinet, who recently announced that he'd be stepping down from his role as the voice of Mario. Pretty iconic voice actor. Step 7. Coding. Here is the most difficult and time-consuming step. So if you really want to learn how to make video games, I would definitely encourage you to learn to code. This is where you create software instructions to make the game on your computer. In my time as a teacher, without fail, students would always ask the question of, why do we need to learn math? Well, here's a good example. If you're going to learn how to code, you're going to need to practice your math skills. Using a pre-existing game engine or creating your own from scratch is what programmers use as a starting point. These programmers may have many tasks that could take days, maybe even a few weeks to complete. The games, they take time to make. They got to work out all the bugs. This is where programmers combine characters, scenes, backgrounds, sound effects, and much more to create that entire game experience. It's a highly collaborative effort with many hours of detailed grinding. If this step doesn't sound very enticing, hey, maybe step 8 is going to be more up your alley. Step 8. Testing the game. Finally, it's time to play test the thing. Once you got the code assembled, the game testing begins. The fun part, kind of. The game's not finished by any means. Still plenty of bugs. The design most likely isn't completely done. There's plenty of glitches, errors. So this is where the play testers come in and meticulously look over and over and over everything for the tiniest little errors, glitches, anything that needs to be fixed. So imagine just playing one portion of a level just over and over and over. It probably can get a little monotonous, but it's got to be done. So if there are errors found, they get passed on to the programming team for correction. Playtesters also gave their opinion of the game. I mean, is this thing fun? Is it not? What do they like? What do they not like? But it goes much deeper than that. For example, do the control schemes even work for the game? So once the game's approved, though, by the team leaders, it's time for production. Hopefully. I'm sure you're aware. I mean, it's become pretty common that games are delayed, maybe they're rushed out and patched later, or even canceled. I'm looking at you, Immortals Phoenix Rising 2. But, as Shigeru Miyamoto famously says, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. Step 9. Distribution. The game is almost done. In this step, it will be. But first, it's time to give the release date and let the production team know of its final deadline. So it's time for the marketing team to go wild, getting the media, retailers, and consumers excited to purchase your game. So now the game's final code, it's ready to be loaded up, then mass produced on a disc, cartridge, what have you. So time to package it up and ship it out to stores. Or at the very least, get it approved for online distribution so the consumers can purchase it digitally. Game over. Making a video game can take a long time, from an initial idea to the end product, patches included. Creating a game can take years, no matter how simple the game is. It's difficult, but it's a rewarding endeavor. You can attack this creation solo, you could hire a team for you, or you could join a team. That way it might help get things rolling. No matter what you decide to do, I hope you persevere, and hopefully someday we can play your game. Now, go play some video games. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this kind of content, let me know down in the comments. We'll keep cranking out those OSTs if you enjoy that side of things, but for now, I'm gonna go read through the new Nintendo Force that I just got in the mail. Have a good one.